swear the oath of loyalty to the Legion. Together we will prevail.
Danielle and Emmanuel Ritchie co-direct and co-write Juggernaut, a short, dark fantasy movie. So this is a dialogue-free movie. It's actually an Italian movie, and I wonder if the decision to not have dialogue was not to alienate foreign audiences. But the movie follows this warrior who has had a personal loss, which appears to be his wife or lover or something like that, and he can't accept it and is trying to find a way to resurrect her. And he has this kind of grimoire, and potentially he finds a solution, but it involves dark magic and potentially some sacrifice and maybe some unintended consequences. What will happen? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. So it runs about 20 minutes, including credits, so about 19 minutes of actual kind of story, I would say. I don't review too many short films, to be honest, occasionally. Let's talk about what I think works in this movie's favour. Now, this is a very, very good looking movie, considering obviously it's a short film, probably limited budget. I believe it was filmed around Tuscany in Italy. And it really looks beautiful. I mean, the kind of the use of on location shooting, both in the kind of like this misty sort of kind of woodland or coastal area, and then we have like a kind of old architecture, which kind of, you know, is our kind of temple or something like that. It really looks good, and the movie's very, very well shot on a kind of a cinematography level. You know, it looks gorgeous. It's a very kind of confident movie in regards to its direction. And this is a short film, but it's a sort of deliberately paced movie. So it's not like balls to the walls action. There is a kind of a fight scene in it, but the movie is still deliberately paced. We're going to get little shots of, you know, the surrounding area and, you know, spiders crawling on the walls and things like that. So although this movie has a limited runtime, it still has this kind of confident, deliberate pace through the movie. So I thought that was, you know, it just looks really good. The nearest I can compare it to is a movie like Excalibur. So if you were a fan of Excalibur, then I would strongly suggest checking this movie out, because it's the closest I can kind of liken it to in some ways. The kind of that dark fantasy is how they describe it, but yeah, outside of the kind of the orchestral grandiance that Excalibur might have, this feels like one of the kind of the quiet sequences and things like that. But if you're a fan of Excalibur, I would suggest checking it out. Things like the costume design, the makeup. What I liked, for example, our main character, our protagonist, you know, he's properly filthy. He's covered in like muck and things like that. It's not like a glamorized version of, like, you know, Dark Ages life and things like that. He struggles. He's dragging this body on the kind of sled, and he's like struggling. There's no, like, you know, horse to take the burden and things like that. So it really is kind of showing you this kind of the grind of life that he's kind of having to put through. And the second half of the movie really is about this kind of the attempt to resurrect, should we call it that? And I won't say too much about it because I don't want to spoil it, but it's more you know, dark magic type and combative sequences and things like this. But it's all very, very well done. Now let's talk about the no dialogue. I think the decision here, and this is speculation on my part, but because this is an Italian movie, they could either have it in Italian and risk alienating people who don't want to watch a foreign language movie, or don't want to watch it with subtitles and things like that, or they could do it in English, but then obviously it's an Italian movie, so they just opted, in my opinion, just to have no dialogue here, and thus kind of negate that problem. But I think the movie uses these like visual storytelling cues to kind of like direct the audience to kind of understand what's kind of going on. We see, you know, at the beginning of the movie, this woman, she's clearly having some type of illness or something, and then we see him dragging this body So we're piecing together what's happened there without the movie sort of with dialogue kind of telling us. So this is really, when we're talking about exposition and show don't tell, this movie is basically a good example of it. He's showing you rather than sort of telling you. And he's got this kind of old grimoire that we're clearly gathering, okay, he's found possibly some way to get this back, you know, get what he's lost back and things like that. There's obviously, as the film goes on, there's, you know, tasks that he has to complete. And again, the movie isn't telling you this, it's all showing you it. So with a lot of films, you'll have exposition dumps where they'll just dump a lot of things you're supposed to, you know, get without really ever telling you, whilst this is the kind of the opposite in many ways, where the movie isn't telling you anything, it's purely sort of showing you on a kind of a visual level. And the visuals are fantastic. You know, for obviously, which is clearly not a high budget movie, it looks great. What can I say maybe that doesn't work quite as well? Okay, now the decision here to have this as a dialogue-free movie, I've seen it described as a silent movie. That isn't the case because there's environmental sounds and things like that. So it's not a silent movie, but it's a dialogue-free movie. And I've explained maybe why I thought they decided to do that. But there are certain things here that I think lack a little bit of context. Like there is a fight scene with another character, and because we don't have dialogue, we really don't know who this other character is, what the kind of what he represents, things like this. We can kind of guess to a certain degree. Is he some sort of revenant or sort of undead knight or something like that? But the movie can only do so much without ever having kind of like some dialogue to kind of fill in some of the gaps. So although I think the movie, you can kind of understand the broad strokes about what's happening, I feel like some of the intricacies are kind of a little missed here. Particularly with, I would say, the last part of the movie. I think again, you can get the gist of what's kind of going on perfectly well, but I do think the movie lacks a little bit of context sometimes, mainly down to the decision not to have any dialogue in this movie. So again, it might leave you with some, you know, I don't quite know what's happened. I get that he's got to fight this guy who might be sort of like some type of undead or something like that, but why? What's the reason? We don't really know. So it just misses a little bit of context, I think, because of the decision here to not have any dialogue. As it stands, I think it's a very good-looking movie. You know, you can get the story. You know, you can understand the story. It's just not being able to maybe look a little deeper into it, because, as I say, I think it ends up being somewhat surface level because of that. But it is, if you like Excalibur, to a degree, Game of Thrones, and there's not that political kind of stuff in this. So, but you like the kind of the grounded, gritty look of Game of Thrones and the sort of the dark fantasy elements of Excalibur, I would strongly suggest checking this out. I'll leave they've given me a press release, so I'll leave that in the description box. That should be able to tell you where you can find it and stuff. But I really enjoyed it. I don't normally rate short films, to be honest. I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10, to be honest with you, because I think I have no critiques on this movie in regards to its visual storytelling. It's only a little bit lacking in context because of the decision here to not have any dialogue. So it's a strong movie outside of that. 8 out of 10. If you have seen it, please do let me know your thoughts, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.
Are there no true knights among you? Subscribe to the Legion.